I am so well shocked, positively shocked, so happy, because we could do something. We could do something. We could contribute to the future, to a better future for our children.
It is an important judgment, perhaps a historic judgment, that will probably attract the attention of many countries outside Switzerland. So I guess the message that has been sent by the court is also of relevance to all these countries.
I really hope that we will win against all the countries. So I'm really disappointed that this isn't happened. But the most important thing is that the court has said the Swiss women's case that governments must cut their emissions more to protect the human rights. So I really think their win is a win for us too, and a win for everyone.
Au début, je prenais un œil.
Holds by 16 votes to 1 that there has been a violation of Article 8 of the Convention. As regards operative provision 7, the Court holds that under Article 8, states have a duty to adopt and to effectively apply in practice regulations and measures capable of mitigating the existing and potentially irreversible future effects of climate change. In the present case, the Court finds that there were some critical lacunae in the Swiss authorities' process of putting in place the relevant domestic regulatory framework. This included a failure to quantify, through a carbon budget or otherwise, national greenhouse gas emissions limitations. Furthermore, as recognised by the relevant authorities, the respondent state had previously failed to meet its past greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. By failing to act in good time and in an appropriate and consistent manner regarding the devising, development and implementation of the relevant legislative and administrative framework, the Court holds that the respondent state exceeded its margin of appreciation and failed to comply with its positive obligations under Article 8 of the Convention. Holds unanimously that there has been a violation of Article 6, paragraph 1 of the Convention. As regards Article 6 and access to court, the Court holds that the applicant association's legal action had been rejected, first by an administrative authority and then by the domestic courts at 2 levels of jurisdiction on the basis of inadequate and insufficient considerations. The Court unanimously, 1, decides to strike the application insofar as it concerns Ukraine out of its list of cases. 2, declares the remainder of the application inadmissible. As regards the applicant's claim that the respondent states other than Portugal have extraterritorial jurisdiction in relation to the adverse effects arising from climate change, the Court acknowledged several points made by the applicants. The problem of climate change is of a truly existential nature for humankind, in a way that sets it apart from other cause and effect situations. However, the Court finds that these considerations cannot in themselves serve as a basis for creating, by way of judicial interpretation, a novel ground for extraterritorial jurisdiction or as a justification for expanding existing ones. In particular, the Court rejects the applicant's submissions to the effect that control over their convention interests should serve as the relevant test for establishing jurisdiction in the field of climate change.
I think today's ruling is a huge boost to the climate litigation movement that's happening in Europe and around the world. The Court's ruling in the Swiss case is of huge significance because it affirms that the European Convention on Human Rights applies to the climate crisis, that governments have legal duties to act, and they've upheld the right of people to go to court and challenge their government's weak climate action. So I think this is a huge moment for all of those communities in the 100 cases or so around the world who are taking their governments to court. The Court has found that the Swiss government's weak climate action is a violation of its human rights obligations. And specifically, the Court pointed to the Swiss government's failure to set a national carbon budget and to comply with its own climate targets. So that's a clear message to the Swiss government that what it needs to do is do its homework on climate change, set its own carbon budget, stick to it, and implement the targets that it set for itself. So that's a pretty clear list of things that the Swiss government needs to do. And everyone will be watching the Swiss government's response to that ruling. The biggest impact of today's ruling will be for the communities who already have climate cases against their governments to challenge their weak climate action. So there are a number of different cases in Europe already where communities are taking their governments to court. So for example, in Belgium, in the Netherlands, in the Czech Republic, in Spain, in Sweden, in Italy, all of those different countries, those governments are facing court cases because they haven't been acting in line with the science. So an immediate impact will be those communities and their legal teams using today's ruling to strengthen the cases that they have.
Well, we're very proud about today. Obviously, we were first a bit disappointed, but the fact that the Swiss senior woman won was amazing, and it was a win for everyone. And now I think today we made history. I don't know what the next steps will be. We haven't discussed it and we didn't have time for it, but it was a very happy day today. I think the fight against climate change, it's a very difficult fight, and we could, even if we won, we wouldn't end this fight here because it's a lot of work. So we will be fighting as we can.
So the Portuguese youth climate case was a very ambitious climate case because, as you say, they were taking 32 governments to court together, and that's never been done before. And they were trying to establish new legal principles because of the nature of the climate crisis. And the European Court took an approach which is more traditional, which is that the main government that those Portuguese young people could take to court is the Portuguese government. And so what the European Court has said is the country that you're living in is the main government that has responsibilities to protect you, and that's the first port of call for a climate case, is to take it to the national courts. So I think it is a reflection of the complexity of that case, but they were asking for new rules because of the nature of climate change. We know that it's a problem that all governments contribute to, and that's why they wanted to sue those governments together. They didn't succeed today, but that doesn't mean that that kind of exploration won't keep happening, because we know that legal principles do need to evolve to reflect the complex nature of climate change.